Hello! I come to you today with a Readathon Wrap Up. This is the first Readathon that I've ever taken part in, and it is the 5books7days Readathon, which is hosted by Lottie Loves Books over on Instagram, so I will link her page in the description down below. Fairly self-explanatory. You get 7 days to read 5 books. This year it ran from the 22nd to the 28th of February. Yeah, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 7 days. I did manage to finish 5 books within that time. However, I didn't start all of them within that time. So there was 2 that I started beforehand and then finished. So I'm going to count them because why not? The books that I read were these. So now I'll take you through them. The first book that I read was Red Rising by Pierce Brown, which is the first in the Red Rising trilogy. This is classed as a sci-fi, I think, but I mean, for me personally, apart from being set on Mars, there's not a lot of sci-fi. There's a little bit of tech in there, but if you don't like sci-fi, but like sort of political action thriller, I suppose I would call it, then I'd still give it a go. It reminded me of a really soft-core Spartacus, if anyone has watched the TV series Spartacus. Basically is a dystopian future, very formulaic, sort of leveled society. Reds are at the bottom, golds are at the top. Everyone in between has a colour and a purpose. So pinks are sort of like prostitutes and there for pleasure, and I think greens do like scientific work, and browns are like soldiers. Probably getting all these colours wrong, but you get the idea. Nothing that you haven't heard before. However, the Reds have been told that they have been sent to Mars ahead of everybody else. They work in like the mines, mining a certain element that's used to terraform planets, and it's sort of horrible, dangerous work, and they never see the sun and blah blah. However, this is a lie. All the planets have been inhabited already. It's just something told to them to sort of keep them subservient. So Darrow, our protagonist, is taken out very early on in the book of his Red family and told the truth about this. And basically there's a rebel faction who want to use him to take down the oppressive Golds, and it goes from there. But yeah, it's very twisty-turny, and especially for the last sort of maybe third of the book, there was a lot of moments where I was like, oh my god! Yeah, so I really enjoyed that. It's set up as with like a Roman Greek theme in the society, sort of. I got very much the way that people sort of dress, and there's a lot of like all of the gods of Roman and Greek society are sort of used in this, and everyone talks in this really what ho sort of way, and I really put toppy voices to it, it was brilliant. It's again nothing that you haven't seen before, but I just really enjoyed the way it was done. Apart from, as I say, there were certain passages where I was just like, oh, I just want to get through this bit to the next bit, so I did do a bit of skim reading, but overall I think I gave this like a 4 stars. It didn't take away anything from it, and I really can't wait to read the next instalment, which is Golden Sun. However, because of my book buying ban, it's not going to happen anytime soon. Just in case you are thinking of reading it, the last instalment called Morning Star's just been released, I believe, in the UK at least, so it is a complete trilogy now. You can read it all. The other book that I started before the readathon dates and finished in them was All the Birds in the Sky by Charlie Jane Anders. Now this has had a lot of hype. It was on quite a few people's like ones to watch in 2016 list, and I know that Charlie Anders, she I think wrote for the website IO9, which I don't have any experience with myself, but I know a lot of people enjoy. So yeah, there was a lot of hype surrounding this, and I've heard it's very like genre bending because there's basically 2 main characters, and one of them is a witch and one of them is a scientist, and it's meant to be really like, oh well, is it science fiction or fantasy or whatever. I mean, I didn't like it at all from page one. So I don't think it was genre busting or any of the things that anyone says it is, because I just struggled the whole way through it. I mean, I think I gave it a 2-star rating in the end, just because there were some elements of it, there were some passages that were good and there were some ideas that were really good, but I just found the writing really difficult. I mean, basically it's like the end of the world is coming and you guys need to work together to save it, but that is literally the plot. Like, there was nothing happened. I mean, these two characters meet when they're young and they're both outcasts, and one of them's outcast because he's like a science geek, and the other one's outcast because she's a bit weird, and she talks to a bird one time and the bird tells her that she's a witch, but then nothing else happens for ages. That was probably the most interesting section plot-wise when they're in high school together, but that was when I found the writing was just terrible. I mean, like, similes, like he had arms like a snail's neck or something. What does that mean? Like, oh, and he was listening to mournful oldies like Hit Me Baby One More Time by Britney Spears, which I appreciate you can call it old as it's set slightly in the future, but how was it a mournful oldie? Like, oh, it just made me so angry. All of it made me so angry. So yeah, I didn't enjoy it, but a lot of other people think it's amazing, so if you think you might think it's going to be amazing, give it a go, but don't talk to me about it because I will get angry at you. Now on to the books that I both started and finished within the time set of the readathon, and the first one feels like a bit of a cheat, but I owned it. I needed to get through all these books. I read it, and it was The Grownup by Gillian Flynn. It's about 70 pages long. I don't even think it's that. I think it's like 67 pages long. And it's about a girl who works as a psychic. She's not, she's a fake, but she works as a psychic, and this woman comes to her and says that there's like something wrong with her house and it's affecting her stepson, and so she goes to investigate, and that is what the story is about. I really enjoyed this. For how short it is, it's a really good little like story, and the writing, I found it really funny. I think there is a lot of humour in Flynn's writing. I've only read Gone Girl. I do have Dark Places on my TBR as well, but yeah, it's like an hour's worth of reading, if that, so I would definitely pick it up if you get the chance. I also read Calamity by Brandon Sanderson. This is the final instalment of the Reckoners series, which started with Steel Heart, and then there was Fireflight. Fireflight. And then ends with this. There was also a short story called Mitosis, which was released. Again, that was like a little tiny 60-pager or something, but it was nice to keep everything going while we were waiting for the next book. So this is a fantasy series about the world in the future where people have developed superpowers, but the superpowers make the people evil, so it's like anti-hero, and then the Reckoners are a little group of people who want to fight the bad guys. It's really good fun. The protagonist David is really funny. I enjoy him. He has this thing where he makes up really bad metaphors for everything, even though they're actually similes, but yeah, typical Brandon Sanderson, I think. Sort of good amount of plot, good amount of like decent writing, and with it being the final instalment, you're always looking for, is everything tied up well, and is it satisfying and enjoyable, which I found that it was. There wasn't anything introduced too sort of late. Each book has been in a different city in America. And even though you're introduced to this new environment every time, I think that Sanderson is a good enough writer that he can immerse you in that environment, and it doesn't feel like it's too late and rushed or anything like that. I really loved this series. I also really like the cover art for the particular ones that I read. So yeah. The final book that I read is a little bit of a different subject matter, genre, whatever, to everything else that I read, and that is Fishnet by Kirsten Innes, however you pronounce that. She's Scottish, so Scottish people, please tell me how that works. So this is a book about like sex workers and prostitutes in Scotland. It won the Guardian Not Man Booker Prize, and basically it's about a woman whose sister went missing 6 years ago. Some new leads have sort of come up when she finds out that her sister was working as a sex worker, and so she sort of starts to investigate what that means really, and does a lot of like research online, and she also works for a company that is trying to knock down a building that is used by local sex workers as a sort of like, not a safe house, but like when they're in the middle of their shift they can go in for a cup of tea and sort of somewhere warm and safe for them to go while they're out on the street. Basically everything that the protagonist thinks about sex working turns out to be incorrect. I'm not sure how I felt too much. Basically, it was like, if you think that all sex workers are forced into it and are on drugs and it's a terrible life, then that's not true, because most of the people that you meet in this story who are sex workers have chosen to do it. They like doing it, they get a lot of money for it, they do it safely. It goes a little bit into like the legislation that concerns sex workers, and whether it's helpful or a hindrance. I felt it was a little bit one-sided in that respect, because obviously there are people that are forced into it, and I didn't feel that was really addressed. It was quite good that it encompassed both genders, so there was male and female sex workers mentioned in it. I really enjoyed it, more than I thought I would. I thought that it would be quite heavy-handed and it would all be about the subject matter, as it were, and not about the plot, but I actually enjoyed the story itself and how that unfolded. The way that it's set out, the first and last chapter are from the point of view of the missing sister, and then the middle is the main protagonist, which at first I was a bit confused because I didn't realise that with the first chapter, but it made sense when I realised that, and by the end. And it does sort of time hop a little bit between sort of the first few months after the sister's disappearance and then it's like now. But I didn't find that once I knew what was going on. It all made sense. It's a really short book. I think it's about 250 pages. So again, it's not a long read, hence me choosing it for this readathon. But I really enjoyed it and it is definitely worth a read. Please let me know if you took part in the 5 Book 7 Days readathon and how you got on, or if you've read any of these titles and what you think of them. But yeah, until next time, ta-ta!